Welcome back to the Lost Cause Ranch. So this little Roverball thing, where we're taking some Land Rovers on the Cannonball route from New York to LA. Well, for some dumb reason, a couple of us thought Freelanders would be the right thing to do it in. And an even dumber thought was, let's tear the engine apart shortly before we go on that trip. It is currently Monday. I need to leave Iowa to drive out to New York Thursday night. Thankfully, we have put 227 miles on the Freelander after getting it back together. Good news is it's still running, but we have ourselves a little bit of an oil leak and it's dripping off that rear timing cover. So I'm guessing I messed up one of the cam seals on the install. But in also other wonderful Freelander news, the O-ring on the lower radiator hose was leaking some, throwing some coolant in the valley. I think we got that solved, but now that we got that all tightened up, we found a new one. Right there. I don't know what it is about these things, and I think any of you who have messed with them can attest, but everything just seems to frickin' fight you. Unfortunately, Iowa is not exactly the Land Rover capital of the world, and there's not exactly a coolant reservoir readily available around here. I do have one getting express shipped from Lucky 8. They're gonna come in and save my butt once again. I do have an extra cam seal, so we can address that hopefully, but I'm a little bit defeated on the engine stuff right now. As you heard, we also have a little bit of a brake noise, and surprisingly, one of our local parts warehouses actually had a set of pads in stock for this guy. So we're gonna go for the low-hanging fruit first. Shockingly, this is the first time I've had the Freelander's wheels off the ground since I've owned it, and thankfully, everything seems tight. Odd. The drums just came off. I'm guessing it hasn't been too long since I've been off there. They actually look to be in pretty good shape. Everything looks good. Put that back on. Other side looks about the same. And up front here, the pads are actually almost new. But them making noise isn't exactly shocking. Being this Freelander came from a little corner used car lot that didn't look like they specialized in anything besides cheap. So I'm guessing these are just the cheapest pads they could find. Or maybe it was a previous owner. I shouldn't be blaming people. But either way, it was definitely the last guy. See, dang near new, but they do look kind of cruddy. And as I suspected, we have zero identification of what it is. Usually, when a brand doesn't put their name on it, they're awfully proud of the part they made. See, Bosch at least throws their part number on somewhere. And another thing Bosch does is wrap their brake pads in a shop rag, which is kind of the coolest thing I've ever seen. I always enjoyed that with them. That's way better than some brown paper. I will tell you, this whole Freelander deal has just been the goofiest thing I've ever worked on. So up top, we have our normal little accordion boot on the pin, which moves nice and free. On the bottom here, we got this little, what looks to be homemade rubber deal. I thought someone lost this and just found what they could find. But if we look on the passenger side, we got the accordion one and the same freaking oddball rubber one on the bottom. I mean, obviously that guy is going to return the caliper and back the pads off better than this would, but it looks homemade. I guess it still could be homemade, just homemade on both sides. If you ever done Freelander brakes, is that how they are? I mean, the caliper does say Lucas on it, so that's a possibility. Now we're gonna put a little lube on these guys, and hopefully that, coupled with the fact it's not the cheapest brake pad known to man, we don't have the annoying brake noise. And while we got it in the air, to procrastinate from messing with the oil leak back here, we're gonna go ahead and drain the transmission and get some new fluid in it. With the way the engine looked and the lack of oil changes it had, I'm willing to bet transmission hasn't been serviced in a timely fashion either. A guy should really get a hoist and install that, you know, instead of like wasting my time getting a Freelander all rehabbed to drive across the country. But I guess what fun would that be? And it doesn't look like we have a whole lot of material on the plug, so that's good. Now, doing the transmission fluid is the one service that hasn't been a complete pain in the butt. Right down there you can see a hole. Well, that's got our fill plug. And all we do is dump 4 liters in there. I'm surprised they can make something that simple to do on the Freelander. But before we put the transmission fluid in, we're gonna start off with this Lube Guard Instant Shutter Fix. When I started using this, it used to be called Dr. Trans or Dr. Tranny, something like that. I'm guessing that's not a good product name anymore. But the first time I used this was on an older Audi A4 that had a torque converter roll or torque converter shutter, and it fixed it right away. So on anything old like this, I like to toss a tube of that guy in. Makes me feel better at least. I don't have a funnel handy that fits in the tiny little hole, so a little makeshift deal. We have a gear lube nozzle onto a quart container with the bottom cut off. The first freaking easy thing to do on the Freelander, since I'm obviously still procrastinating the fact that I'm gonna have to mess with the timing once again to fix that oil leak, we're gonna do something far more important, and that is swap out the factory radio with something that's got Bluetooth. Now this is nothing fancy, and after the trip I'm probably gonna stick the factory one back in. Nothing wrong with it. But I figure with 60 hours of driving, Bluetooth might be a good luxury. I mean, we don't want to make it overly comfortable. That's why we're taking a 25-year-old Freelander. But simple things like this should make life a tiny bit better. Man, I can't believe how easy that was. That was quite possibly the simplest thing we've done to the Freelander. I didn't even need the radio adapter harness that I ordered for it. The factory one just plugged into the back. Now we have tunes wherever we go, which is good because we're missing the antenna part of the radio antenna, so reception, not so great. And in some other news, I think I made an executive decision regarding the oil leak. Here is the rear timing cover, and as you can see, we have a little bit of oil in the wrong spot. Not supposed to be there, but I'm going to emphasize it is a little bit of oil. Here's an example of what it leaves overnight, and that's after it's spread out. When it drips, it's usually about the size of a quarter, which if we factor in the Land Rover world, it's not a whole lot. My main concern on the oil leak was whether or not it was getting the rear timing belt wet. That thing is bone dry. So thankfully, we shouldn't have any oil contamination on the belt. It's just going to be kind of a nuisance leak for the time being. Now, I'm pretty sure it's an exhaust cam seal. I mean, it's either that or the cam cover leaking. To figure out whether it is this cam cap. And when I say cam cap, I'm talking about the actual cam hold down, not this upper cover. This upper cover is super simple to get off. This one, not so much. And for us to determine whether or not it is the cam seal or the sealant in between this cap and the head, we'd have to get this rear cover off, and to get this rear cover off, cam gears have to come off, which obviously involves the timing. Now, I think I could get that sorted out with just messing with the rear here. The front belt only feeds to the intake camshaft, and the rear belt is to loop both cams together. I think I could bust everything loose, slide these off, and then pull our front exhaust cam seal and use a channel locks or something to roll the cam back into place to slip everything back on. But what we run into is a problem with time. Not the physical time to do the job. My worry is if something goes wrong, we may have to tear the front timing apart again, which involves that engine mount, which is probably like a 10-hour ordeal. It's Tuesday, we're leaving Thursday. We have 10 hours. But my fear is if something else breaks in the process and we need to replace something else, we don't have time to get parts for it. We're in Iowa. It's a Freelander. It just doesn't happen overnight. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of a gamble, and we're going to bring our cam seal along with, and we'll obviously have all the tools we need to replace that on the side of the road if it becomes a real issue. But with what it is leaking now, it's not a measurable amount, and it won't really affect anything. That's not to say it won't get worse. Stuff like this usually doesn't get better. But at this point in the game, I think it's worth the risk. And I mean, come on, it just adds to the adventure. But for a tiny bit of peace of mind, I'm going to degrease the engine. It's pretty oily down there. Then we'll put a few more miles on it and just kind of see exactly where we're at. I am also going to check the oil to make sure we didn't lose a significant amount in the 300 miles we've driven it. I mean, I guess if we go through a couple liters of oil on the trip, it's just like kind of freshening the oil up along the way for the 6,000 mile trip, because we all know the oldest oil always leaks out first, not the new stuff. So it's now Wednesday, we leave tomorrow, so we just ran into Walmart to grab some oil. We're gonna do a fresh oil change. We got about 300 miles on the oil right now. Being the engine was pretty dirty, I wanted to dump that and get a fresh 6.5 quarts in there before we go 6,000 miles. Seems like a smart thing to do. Also got some Lucas. We're throwing every mechanic in a can at this guy to try and make it last. See right there, it says it extends engine life. And the Freelander needs all the help it can get in that department. But either way, we're gonna dump the oil one last time, fill it up with some more 5W40 and some stuff that's thicker than 5W40. One new fresh filter. And now we're gonna make sure our engine is safe. The actual reason we're putting the Lucas in is because it is frickin' warm out. We're gonna be doing some extended driving, which is obviously gonna give us some higher engine oil temps. Engine oil thins out as it warms up. So I just wanna thicken it up a little bit. Hopefully that rear cam seal doesn't become an issue. A little thicker oil might help. I mean, I'm really just trying to justify the fact that I am intimidated at repairing that rear cam seal this late in the game. So I'm just trying to make myself feel better about the situation. Hey, we even have oil pressure again. And no check engine light. Can't be having an exhaust leak. Couple new flex pipes. I think we got time to weld those in yet. So essentially what we're trying to do here is limit our carbon monoxide exposure. We don't want to have the sleepy gas make us fall asleep on the road. No, these guys look pretty frickin' chooched. So we got a couple new jobbers that should seal up a little better. A little bit of that action has it much more tolerable. It may not be a full wrap, but we'll at least throw some of our friends along the back here. And since we're just about to take off, we can't forget this guy. Hold you with my chin here. Masterful. And I cannot frickin' make this up. But the Freelander saga continues. Like I said, this thing has been fighting me along the entire way. And we're ready to leave in about an hour. And this coolant reservoir is still the old one. So apparently, according to FedEx, the car wash building behind me does not exist. It's physically there, I can see it. But they're saying it is an undeliverable address. The reservoir was supposed to be here yesterday. The guys at Lucky 8 did their job and got it here in time. FedEx decided to throw a wrench in that plan. I was able to redirect the package to a local Walgreens today so we could at least have it and install it before we took off. Guess what? FedEx didn't do that. So it's currently sitting at the FedEx Express warehouse. Thankfully, that is on our way out of town. So what we're gonna do is grab the reservoir from FedEx when we head out to go to New York. We'll swap this guy out in a parking lot somewhere. But for the meantime, some JB weld fixes everything. So that little jobber will hold us over until we get a chance to stop somewhere and swap the proper one. But I think there's nothing left to it but to do it. So I think we are pretty much ready to roll. We got some hats, we got the scan tool, and the ever important battery charger that we bought in a Walmart when the LR4 nearly left us stranded. That guy comes on every trip from here on out. And we got our tent, we got some wipes, we got our 5-gallon bucket toolkit, glass cleaner, air compressor, various fluids, including 5 quarts of oil because we'll probably need it, and none other than Menards antifreeze. Only the best for the Freelander. We got some brake clean, spare ignition coils, gear lube. We just need to add the cooler, and I should probably remember clothes this time. Also, in some brilliant scheduling by Joe, we're getting internet installed at the car wash 22 minutes before we leave for New York. And we're off. We are at the first of hopefully many gas station stops over the next week or so. We are off to New York, leaving Iowa. We have roughly 15-hour drive, 950 miles, and we're doing that just so we can turn around and drive back through Iowa in a couple days. But we're gassed up, and we also got our package from FedEx, and for some reason, they think the car wash is a bad address. Like I said, I'm physically there. The building exists. So let's get on the road. We're leaking oil, leaking coolant, but in positive news, Jamie made us a pretty sweet snack setup. And unfortunately, the last tank of fuel, we got 17 miles to the gallon. Granted, it was a mixture of in-town and highway. I was kind of hoping to see at least 20. This might get expensive. This might be the end of the Freelander right here. All right, so we made it to what is going to be our final fuel stop before we get to New Jersey. Just checking. We're about 850 miles in. Want to see how much oil it has used. And it's not terrible so far. It is leaking. No doubt about that. But it looks like we are about half a liter down in 850 miles. As long as it doesn't get progressively worse, I think we'll just roll right now. As long as it's not constantly pouring out, I would rather just keep dumping it in along the way. But once we get to New Jersey, we'll top this guy back off before we take off in the morning, assuming we get to New Jersey. But either way, we are like 14% done with the trip, and we made it to Jersey. We take off tomorrow on our little epic adventure across the country. So stay tuned for the next video where you guys will see this Freelander, along with this Freelander, and a bunch of other Rovers attempt to make it from New York to LA. We stopped to get gas real quick, and it doesn't appear to be getting any better.